This year, the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit, a unit once known as the National Task Force on Crime Prevention, celebrates its 30th anniversary. Now, in 1995, the team was created with a focus on crime prevention, criminology, studying those criminal risk factors affecting Barbadians. But today, our research and our work goes far beyond that. We now turn our research into actionable programs and policies to help our young people and to generally help our island. Now, such work can't be done alone. It must be done in collaboration, working hand in hand with our valued partners. Now, one such partner is Amar Empowerment Network, a valued partner of the CJRPU, and directors Ambrose and Maria Carter. They use our research and the information that we provide and turn that information and data into programs and policies that help Barbadians. Now, I note your slogan, empowering people, transforming lives.
Yes.
You mentioned we focus youth, communities, sexual purity. Now, we get to our collaboration with our Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit, where the focus is on crime, crime prevention, criminal research. So how do you link the two? And I want you to tell us, how did that relationship and synergy between the two that seem to be from two different sectors or areas of focus, how did that relationship come to be?
I'm waiting for one. Well, you know what? The research is so important, especially in recent times. We see it going towards younger and younger persons committing crime. And like I said, our focus, although it is on sexual purity, what we have done in recent times is we have brought on board some of those individuals that have committed crime to go back into the youth groups and the schools and tell their story and encourage individuals not to take that road. Now, the thing is that being invited to the table by the criminal justice system, and particularly this unit, has been so important. You know, sometimes you can be out there as a faith-based organization and you can seem invisible. So that has been a pleasure. It has been a pleasure really working with the unit over the years.
Well, to my next question, the CJRPU works often to identify social and behavioral risk factors linked to crime. So how has that type of data helped Amar Empowerment Network refine and target its outreach to the communities you serve?
That is a good question. Because, like I said earlier, we focus on behaviors as it relates to sex and sexuality. But coming out of the research, there's some things that we have developed, not yet launched, because we recognize some of those risk factors, which basically things like poverty, family struggles, these kind of things. So those
They're all linked.
yeah,
They're all linked.
they are linked. But we have a new thing that we started called the Community Assistance Program. That's on paper, but all of that came about because of the research. Finding ways that we can better help families. The other thing is, the research would also show, this is what we gleaned from some of the research, is that individuals that are exposed to, I'll say church, but I'll clarify later on, are less likely to get involved in crime.
So all of this is from our research.
The research, right? They're less likely to get involved in crime. Now, we recognize also that a number of individuals are not going to church like they used to. So we need to take the church or the teaching to the community, and that's what we have started to do.
Now, speaking of organizations we partner with is Men Empowerment Network Support. They are guiding young men toward positive life choices and empowering them within their communities. Now, Fabian Sargent, director of that organization, is a valued partner of the CJRPU, and we spoke with him just recently about how our research helps to inform his programs. Fabian?
Okay, so I am a professional social worker, and I'll start there. And everything that I do is based on research. Research is extremely important. That is how we get to understand the trends, understand what is happening in the social environment, and we just don't pull solutions or programs out of the sky. Once we are applying for funding for any type of project, we must have a strong rationale, and that rationale is often hinged on research. So with Men Empowerment Network support working with men and boys across Barbados, a lot of the research that is done through the Criminal Justice and Research Unit is very relevant to the work that we do. Hence, you would have developed that relationship, through a number of initiatives, and me reaching out to the organization to see what research is available, to really, really provide a platform or foundation for the initiatives that we do as an organization. We have two of our flagship programs for our boys. So the Safe Zone, which is shaping adolescents to function in their environment for boys between the age of 12 and 18 years old. If we look at a number of the research that is disseminated, you get to realize that adolescent boys, a lot of the challenges start with them around that adolescent phase. You have boys being expelled from school at 13 years old. We are seeing a number of reports from schools across Barbados, age 14, 15 being that age where most boys are given most of the trouble, for lack of a better word. So Safe Zone really, really provides that social and emotional and developmental space for boys to really talk and share and express themselves. And that program is run by professionals as well, social workers, psychologists, teachers. We have a program called Bridge to the World. Coming out of the research that was done for 2024, where that there were around 49 murders at December 2024, and most persons who were charged for those murders were between the ages of 16 and 19 years old. And then there was some research that was done on schools where it highlighted the expulsion rate, a number of boys that were expelled from school, those who were superannuated, and a number of other areas that highlighted that there was a great challenge with boys between the age of 14 and let's say 20 years old. And within the organization, we had a number of discussions, and we thought that research highlighted boys at 14 or 15 in particular being expelled. I had one as young as 13. And the question was, what will happen to these boys? They're not old enough to access any post-secondary organization. They can't go skills training at 14. We can't get to the Samuel Jetman Prescott Institute of Technology. What are we doing with these boys? So these boys will be home. Parents have to go to work. And as the old saying goes, the devil finds work for idle hands. So then a lot of these boys gravitate to where boys in the neighborhood are socializing. That's where blocks are then formed. And a lot of negativity and criminal behavior really kicks up from there. So we thought it necessary to create this project called Bridge to the World, which engages these boys between the age of 15 and 20 who have no qualifications, limited qualifications, or was expelled or suspended from school. I'm extremely pleased to see you guys taking a public health approach to the interventions. My background is also in public health. I have a master's in public health. And, it's extremely important that we understand the social determinants of crime. It is important that we get into communities and understand these behaviors. Now, it is okay to want to assume what the problem is, but if you cannot put a finger on the specific issue, that is not true research, then we find ourselves as a country spending money in unnecessary places, having interventions that do not work. We'll be creating programs that are not attractive to the people, So research really, really I guess it really informs us as to what the true picture is. That presenting issue is not always the issue. Somebody can come to you, you can see something with your two eyes and assume that is what is needed. But when you really delve deeper, you explore, I'm a qualitative researcher. I like qualitative work because it allows me to understand, to get that in-depth knowledge, and really see the root causes of these behaviors. And it's through that type of research that we are able then to have informed programs, and programs that will be beneficial, and programs that can bear fruit.
Tamisha, you are Senior Program Officer here at the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit. And as you know, the unit is celebrating 30 years of successful research, analysis, and programming. And of course, a team is an integral part of the unit's success. So I want you to begin from that perspective. Tell us a bit about your role and responsibilities in making the CJRPU a success over the years.
Okay, so as a senior program officer, my core responsibility is to manage projects that promotes the use of our research. One example of that would be our quarterly strategic meetings. That is my responsibility, where I coordinate as well as facilitate the activities within that strategic planning meeting. Usually within that meeting, we always release some form of data from the Barbados Crime Observatory, or we will release research findings. Within the meeting, we also conduct group discussions because we want to hear from each stakeholder what they think not only about the research, but what they think the department can do with the research, so that we can use that in our recommendations.
Okay, so as given your responsibilities, how do you translate research findings into real actionable programs?
Okay. So first, we start in-house in terms of identifying key findings within the research. So we meet, collaborate, the findings, each officer that is responsible for the research usually present it to us, and we collaborate together to discuss what are the key findings. From that key findings, then we determine recommendations in terms of formulating clear objectives to rectify or to deal with what the findings identify, right? Following that, we engage with stakeholders. It's usually be at the quarterly strategic meeting, but if something happens and it has to go out of that, we will hold meetings where we present those findings, sit down and plan, do a strategic action plan that involves activities to achieve those objectives, as well as the resources that will be needed, and what probably things can put a constraint on achieving these activities. Earlier this year, we actually had a research done by our interns that revealed that these individuals and communities have their fear where they're reluctant to take part in activities. So this month in November, we want to have activities that have individuals and community moving from fear but actively want to participate, so that they feel secure, and that in a way will strengthen the community. Also, the month is focusing on further engagement of our stakeholders and collaborating with our stakeholders and raising awareness in terms of crime prevention and the findings of our research.
Hence the theme from fear to citizen empowerment.
Yes, so a lot of our activities is going to surround communities. For example, we have a youth tournament. The focus, is young people, and we're letting them take part in there's chess, there's draft, makeup, road tennis. So it's to build team building and let them know that these activities can happen in communities in a safe environment, and how they feel interacting with each other, and as well as taking part in the games. We also have a T20 cricket match where it's going to be between the Barbados Police Service team as well as the Conquering Lions, and that is open to the public. We just want to have fun in a safe environment, enjoying a game that Barbados is known to love, cricket.
Now, given this engagement that goes beyond the theory, as you mentioned, and paper-based analysis and research to actionable programs, from your vantage point, what has been or have been some of the major accomplishments of the CJRPU?
Well, we have a lot of accomplishments, and I must say it has to be the Crime Observatory, the Barbados Crime Observatory. From that, we are able to actually engage our communities, not only our communities, but our stakeholders, where we not only share the information, but we assist them, we help them to translate the data into actual evidence-based projects and programs. So that's our biggest achievement, the development and the actual strength of the Barbados Crime Observatory. I am wow at the presentations every time, and the actual reports. Another thing that I can say we were able to accomplish is that every year for the past 10 years, we are able to complete an international United Nations report on crime, trends, and operation of the criminal justice system. So that is something where it allows internationally as well as nationally for us to compare reported crime incidents and what is going on within the court system, criminal justice system. So every year we're able to collect that information, put it into a report, and present it to the United Nations as well as any stakeholders who have an interest in that report.
Now, we also spoke with Madam Justice Barbara Cook-Allen, who currently serves as a High Court judge, but her outreach and her impact goes far beyond the courtroom. She's also a founder of Winners Circle, Inc., and Madam Justice Barbara Cook-Allen, she sat down with us to speak about how that program was birthed out of research presented by the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit. Okay, Madam Justice, I want you to first begin by telling us a bit about your 11 Plus project called Winners Circle, Inc. What did it include? What projects and initiatives were you engaged in? How did it help our young people across Barbados?
I would have been the sitting magistrate in Juvenile Court District A, and seeing the juveniles come to court. It's a big jurisdiction. A lot of secondary schools are in St. Michael, populated as well. So most of the juveniles will come to that court from things that happen within that parish. And I was concerned about them. Most of them come to court not realizing that their actions now have consequences because they're now 11 years old. And I wanted to have a project to actually impact on them to realize that their actions now may have legal consequences. I would have seen Ms. Willoughby in the paper like the week before the nation, recognized that she had an interest in doing projects, especially with children. And I reached out to her. It was our first time meeting, and we chatted about it to develop the project called Winners Circle, Inc. We looked at several things in the court. At the time, gambling was prevalent among the boys. Statistics revealed that to us. The girls, it was wandering. That's where they leave home to go to school or someplace else and never get there, missing for days. The underlying cause as well, in many of them, was drugs. We always do a drug test on them, and you realize that they're not at court for drugs, but it's drugs actually in their system, which probably influencing their behavior as well. So we sat and we decided how we're going to get the project on board, what topics we need to discuss with these children. We reached out to Barbados Police Force, now called the Police Service, as well as the Family Planning Unit as well. The Family Planning Unit came in because the girls were promiscuous, not recognizing now that they're at the stage where they can become pregnant, they can be STDs, and they need to have abstinence. So we pushed the idea of abstinence in respect of that aspect of it. We talk about wandering. In respect of the boys, we looked at the gambling, recognizing that that could lead to an assault or a wounding if it don't go the way that the person who lost wanted it to go. And they would definitely be before the court for several crimes, not only gambling, but as well as for the physical violence they've done to the other person. So we reached out to different persons at different entities and to come together as well to formulate the program for us. Transition to secondary school. We assume it's a basic thing, you go into secondary school, but it's a transition mentally and emotionally. Bigger schools, more children, you know the little ones at the school and not the big ones. More bells ringing, more subjects. You may not have a break time anymore, just a lunch time. So we thought it important to let them know these things as well as how to study when they go home, importance of actually taking notes, writing on their homework, and so on. And then we involve the parents as well in that aspect on the transition as well. We can recognize which the children have to reach the parents. So we had that another part. Like a few years later, actually into that other part of us, bringing parents into the program with their own separate workshops as well. So that was very important and integral. I couldn't have done about what was then called the National Task Force on Crime Prevention. The basis then was, the mandate was to have projects to deter children and persons from crime and not just research. It has since changed as more research oriented. So we had to go our way after a certain time. But we were together for at least more 8 years working together as a team, having the projects going out as well.
Madam Justice, I didn't mention this to you before, but I'll take the opportunity to ask you, all these agencies within the criminal justice realm, yourself being a high court judge, working in the Supreme Court and the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit, working along with the courts and police and so on. I want to take this opportunity to ask you, as a judge working in the administration of justice over the years, Has the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit produced research or analysis that has helped to inform perhaps the manner in which you conduct your duties as a judge?
They go wider than that, actually. The research that they provide for us let us know exactly the concerns. They always invite us as well when they having their final say as to when they put all their statistics together and analyze it, and we go to see what they're saying. So it helps to understand what's happening in society and what we're seeing now and what's the causes more so. We would have our own view, but they have the statistics to prove to us what it could be. We find that is very helpful when you're dealing with matters with children or otherwise in the criminal arena.
Speaking about communities, I want you to delve now a bit into your community outreach initiatives and programs.
Right.
Of course, this is a government department, but your work can't be effective if it's not done in collaboration with your external partners. So tell us a bit about those relationships and over the years, the impact that those relationships has had on our youth and Barbados in general.
Certainly. We have been working with all the government agencies that have a focus on youth development, whether it is the Division of Youth Affairs, whether it is the National Council on Substance Abuse, the Probation Department. What we have started in the past 2 to 3 years is we are now having collaborative meetings, strategic planning meetings, where we share our research findings with all of our stakeholders, including the target population. We are actually inviting young people from the communities to sit around a table with us and tell us exactly what are some of the things they would like to see within their communities. And based on that, we develop crime prevention programs targeting these at-risk communities. We've also been working very closely with the National Peace Program. They utilize our data to determine the communities that they're going into with their crime prevention programs, as well as who are the target populations that they believe they need to target, whether it's at the level of the schools, etc. So we work also very closely with the schools, where when we determine that a school is experiencing serious problems, we go into those schools and we have conversations on crime with those schools. So it is a collaborative effort at crime prevention. We also work closely with the police as well, so that at the end of the day, we are all focused in one direction, and that the targets that we have set for ourselves, they're realized, because as a small department, we can't do it on our own. We need the assistance of all of our community members in order to be effective at what we are doing.
No, Director, speaking about those programs, some may more so recall in past years programs like Girls Talk, Boys Talk,
Yes.
the Dispute Resolution Program, and 11 Plus program done in collaboration with Justice Barbara Cook.
Yes.
So step back a bit to those years and tell us a bit about those programs and how effective they were from your vantage point in turning the lives around of at-risk youth.
That's an excellent question, because we would have used the research that we did to determine risk factors and target populations and schools that we believe needed immediate interventions. So based on our research findings, we contacted schools that we determined needed our assistance, our attention. And based on that, the principals, they were very cooperative. They would refer to us students who had behavioral problems, especially where violence is concerned. They work also with the guidance counselors to identify these students, and they refer them to us. And we had a 12-week program where we had guidance counselors, we had professionals in the area of psychology, psychologists, parenting specialists, and so on, who would work with these children and their parents over a 6 to 12-week period at the Office of the Attorney General. And based on the outcomes of those interventions, the students graduated and were able to go back to their school and train other young people in dispute resolution and conflict mediation skills. The Girls Talk and the Boys Talk, we went into the Government Industrial School for girls and the Government Industrial School for boys. We invited professionals from the media, from all other agencies to come in and speak to the young people about career development, behavioral changes. We did a lot of role plays and so on with them. And we did similarly with the boys. We had the fire service and other organizations that we believe they can benefit from after they were released from the institutions to come in and speak with them. And feedback indicates that these programs were very, very effective at diverting some of these young people from criminal activity. The recidivism rate among them at that time was very low. So we determined that these programs were important, and I'm happy that I was able to be a part of it.